Hi everybody. It's been a while since we've been back with the coronavirus pandemic being around. It's made it very difficult with the amount of work we've had trying to get our new artists up and scheduling and marketing. It was pretty intense, and we had to move offices at the same time. So we're back, and I thought what we might do, we were talking about Laneway Music and how we started and what's not. But I just thought we'd had so many releases in the last 2 months, 3 months, that it might be better to just talk about those for the time being, to give our artists who matter so much to us, because Laneway is about our artists, who had releases. I think that I might keep looking over here to my PC, and that will give me a bit of a list because we do have so many. I think one that takes note, we have released an artist called Jimmy Loops, who is a hip-hop artist, which we really haven't had any hip-hop artists before. And the depth of Jimmy's works go, into 5, 6, 7, 8 albums, and the lyrics in these albums really do talk about, I think, the development of an individual from hard times to seeing the light, and basically coming out the other end. There's some quite inspirational work in there, and a lot of work with other artists in those titles, which again gives the music a real depth because of the diversity. So Jimmy Loops is one that if you like hip hop, you should have a listen to. There's a lot of videos up on a video channel, and the video channel has gone quite crazy during the pandemic. Statistics and analytics are pretty important to us, and they're important for us, for our artists, so that we can actually market in the right direction for them. And what's been pretty interesting is that the audio streaming has actually stayed quite stable. Now, we've been adding a lot of artists, so you would expect streaming to increase overall as a cumulative, but it hasn't, and the deeper you dig, what we found with all our partners around the world is that more people were staying at home, obviously, through the pandemic, therefore weren't in their cars or weren't on public transport, and this is where a great majority of streaming occurs, as people go to work and come home. And there was a dramatic drop in those time frames. Now let's talk probably 6:30 in the morning to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to say 7 or 8 p.m. There was a dramatic drop. What alternatively happened was that our YouTube channel went absolutely ballistic, and instead of say 10,000 streams per day is now up to 15,000 streams per day, and it's been very evident through the subscriptions to our YouTube channel, and that ramified straight through to Netflix, who had signified that their audience had increased threefold through the pandemic. I suppose there's nothing new to that, you would maybe assume it, but they were important stats for us. So from Jimmy Loops, we got to artists like Pure Tone. Pure Tone is basically Josh Abrahams, who had a huge hit called Addicted to Bass, and now goes under the name of Pure Tone, and did overseas at the time. And he has done a lot of collaborations, and his music is quite diverse, ranging from dance-orientated DJ material to indie pop to alternative. And if you have a listen to his releases through Pure Tone featuring Quick Brown Fox, to Pure Tone featuring Java, and there is several others there. And if you have a listen to those, you will see the diversity of our artist called Pure Tone and his depth. From there, we have our good friend Kai Dahlstrom, who has released through Mole and basically has been releasing his 80s um, 80s related product, which he absolutely adores, and it basically ramifies the 80s once you listen to it. The artist he goes under is Mole, Mole, and there is several releases there, and they are continuing to come out. We then have James McCann, and James McCann being originally from the Drones and has probably in excess of 10, 13 albums up with us through related bands that he's been in. And again, an absolute depth of creativity. And what we've been releasing just lately is James McCann's Marshalling Yard, and it's absolutely sensational alternative indie rock, and that's our bread and butter. And I think you should do yourself a favour and listen to that. A real significant release was the Spy vs Spy 1981 demos, which came out in March, and then that was followed by Spy vs Spy live in Caringbah, which has some really significant releases on it because the songs were never before recorded, and this goes right back to the early days of Spy vs Spy. Really significant if you're a Spies fan. We then have Rob Grosser, who has worked with many artists and basically works very heavily with Tim Gaze. Tim Gaze was in Ariel for a short period of time, and Tim Gaze and Rob Grosser basically do blues. Again, staple stuff for Laneway Music, but also have Rob has done many side projects, and one of those is Elephant in the Room, which is more a movie soundtrack based type of creativity in his music. From there, we have moved to also Kent Steedman from the Celibate Rifles, who again has many side projects, plays with Jim Magini from Midnight Oil in The Family Dog, and also has another band called Radio KSG, and that has had releases now with Stuart Leadfinger on vocals at one stage, and now it's moved to Ben Brown from the Hellman on vocals, and there is several releases there. They're slotted for the rest of the year. I think there's probably another 6 releases there slotted. There's already 3 out. Again, pure indie rock, staple surf rock for Kent Steedman, and if you like the Celibate Rifles, well, you'll love that. Chris Turner, now Chris Turner, having the length and depth of his career goes right back to he played with Buffalo at one stage, and then with Rose Tattoo in the very early days, and he's actually putting out a album of all his favourite artists, and he's actually got Rock and Roll Outlaw in there by Rose Tattoo. He's got Tush by ZZ Top, Crossroads, the old classic, and we probably all remember it through Eric Clapton, and the list will go on. That will be released constantly every month for the rest of the year, and there will be a video to follow with that also. From there, we've had the Zorros, and the Zorros go back to the late 70s, early 80s, and we really wanted to put out the Zorros because the Zorros represent punk history in Australia, as the Chosen Few do that we've also released. And it's very important that we get this product out to actually show the Australian audience and the world audience what was happening here at that time in the punk scene. It is absolutely sensational music from that era, and as Molly used to say, do yourself a favour. From there, we've actually working on Van Walker, who has joined Laneway Music, and there will be multiple releases for Van Walker in the coming months, as there will for several other artists that we can't quite name yet, but we're just finalising the agreements as we speak. Mother Goose also have had multiple releases through us and have another one coming out next month. The next one coming out is an album that was never released, was their fourth album, and when we get releases like that, it's very exciting. If you're a fan of Australian classic rock of the 70s and in the like of Matt Lake, who had the Blue Room, which we released several months ago, which was again a 1976 recording, never released. So they recorded the album and it sat on the shelf for all those years. And I'd just like to finish off today with some news that next Saturday, June the 13th, we will be running a live-to-air show. We will start with Van Walker, our newest signing, who will start up the show and go on for 45 minutes and show us what he's made of. We will then follow with Chris and Charlie Marshall from Harum Scarum, who will then again bring us their soulful blues, just charismatic music to us. And then we will follow that on with Matt Lake, who will bring us tunes from their never released album, The Blue Room, and their classic albums. We're going to run this show every month now for the next 6 months. It is a free show that goes live to air on Facebook and YouTube on our channels. We hope we can see you there. It's going to be real fun presenting it, and just so exciting that we can give back to our bands because they've been devastated because they can't do live shows, and that this will give them the ability to get out there live and then go out and do their own live shows for you, whether it be from their PC in their little studio at home or at a venue, of course, without an audience. We will be complying with all COVID-19 codes of conduct, so we have a lot of work to do between now and then to get this to you, but hopefully you can tune in from 3 p.m. June the 13th, that's a Saturday, next Saturday, with Van Walker, Chris and Charlie Marshall, ex-Harum Scarum, and Matt Lake. Let's see you next week, and I'll be updating you with further releases in a week or two's time. Thanks very much. Bye.